it's very authentic for me to be an oversharer. I mean, anybody who knows me, it's like I've always been an oversharer. So it's a very natural thing for me. And to me, it felt like the authentic thing felt like overly sharing my life. Like, and I've always been like that. But there are some people who just aren't built that way, right? There are some people who, um, like I was just talking about this with my friend Caitlin, who's a numerologist. She's like, you have a lot of these parts of your numerology. You're the type of person that's deeply like private, but then you have this whole side that's like, no, you have to like share, like vomit everything, like share everything. And the thing is like, not everybody's built to overshare. And like, I actually don't think that's a smart idea. For a lot of people, it's about like what's authentic for you. And, you know, and for me, I just don't know any other way. But the thing is, like, with what you share, I always like, it's like, why? Why am I sharing this right now? You know, and there are so many things in my life that, I mean, I think I share a lot, but like, I really only share like 5% of what's going on ever, because I still have my personal life and no one's entitled to know what's going on. Like, no one's entitled. And whenever I'm sharing something, I'm asking why, you know, what's my intention behind this? And for me, my intention usually whenever I'm sharing something personal, it's because it's an example. Like it's an example of like a teachable moment of like, hey, I'm going through this. Like, so if anybody's reading this and they're feeling this too, or they're struggling here too, this is what worked for me essentially. Right. Or like, you're not alone in this. Right. So, but if I have something to share just to say, and I'm like, is this going to be in service? And it's really not, then I don't need to say it. And there are definitely things in my life that I go through all the time where I'm like, people don't need to be involved. Like, I was just talking to a friend about this the other day. She was going through something pretty intense and she's like, I feel like I should call everybody in our friend group so that everybody knows. And I'm like, no. I'm like, they can find out later. You're in the middle of it and you need to like sit with it and let yourself process and feel it for yourself. And we can be so busy. Well, what is everybody else going to think? It's like, this is your, like your time, you know? And I very much did that when things were opening up very intensely for me spiritually. I very much went inward and I didn't share a lot of what was going on because I was processing it for myself. And I certainly did not need anybody else's opinion. And when I first kind of like, when I was first in health and wellness, a lot of people wanted to give me their opinions all the time. And I was like, I just don't want them, you know? And so I had to learn to set boundaries to be very clear. And I will straight up say to people like, hey, I'm sharing this and I don't need an opinion. Like, I'm not sharing this for an opinion. I think this is something very interesting that people do not understand. I've had this conversation with so many people just in life. If someone's sharing something with you, that does not mean that they want your opinion. It doesn't, but people just assume that it does. Like, and I don't want to sound harsh, but so it's like, thank you for sharing that with me. Like, are you looking for me just to listen? Or are you looking for some advice? You know, or I think about like, you know, especially with health stuff, this is where it really showed up for me. And working with clients, like they would bring this up. It's like, I feel like, and I want support, like emotional support, and I want to share what's going on with my life. But if I share, everybody's, you know, trying to be my doctor in my ear. And it's like, I got it. Like, trust me, I'm paying for plenty of help. I have my protocol, right? And everybody likes to be in everybody's ear and people are coming from a good place. But we have to ask why am I giving my opinion, right? And I've kind of had to learn well, kind of not kind of I have had to learn I can't control what other people do. I just can't. So I can't control if everybody wants to give their opinion about what I'm saying, but I can control how I respond and how I show up. And I can make it very clear why I'm sharing something. And I can also set up my boundaries so they can or cannot share their opinion, right? So if I want to turn comments off, I could. But I think that it's something to really think about. Like, for me, I think about what feels authentic for me? What do I want to be in 5 years? What's the point of sharing all of this stuff? Because I would say, honestly, for most people, just with like people tuning into businesses and talking, for most people, sharing a lot of their life publicly, like, is probably not the best move. It's not necessary, right? So it's like, why am I sharing this? Is it, especially within a business context, it's like, there should be like a moment, right? And there are things in our lives like that I think should be kept for ourselves, right? I have so many sacred moments in my life, like where I'm like, nobody needs to know. like it is a sacred experience for me. Right. And like, I just want it for me. Right. So I kind of, anything I share, I know somebody could say something, but I also hold an energy now, which I didn't earlier on. I hold an energy now that's kind of like, don't come at me. Right. Like, don't come at me. And I didn't the first go around, which I think was kind of why I got a lot of people's opinions. And it was more dramatic for me because I got like, with a lot of my health issues and what I was talking about, I got some like bigger media. I got some bigger media. And so I felt very like on display. It wasn't just like me on my Instagram account. It was like big media outlets, writing articles about me and doing videos about me. And so that was like a lot when I'm already going through like essentially fighting for my life with chronic illness and losing all my friends. And, I was like, it was too much for me. And so that was a very like abnormal experience. And for most people, I would say like a lot of my business clients, they're like very nervous to share. And it's like, well, let's like look at the reality of what you're sharing. Hey, like, is it that, like what's the reality of what you're sharing? And is it that intense? Are people really going to judge you? And a lot of times we live in this like all or nothing mindset, with sharing things. And it's like, you don't have to share anything if you don't want to. And so what's the purpose behind it? It's not like you have to share all of your life or none of it, and especially with business, like you don't have to share any if you don't want. There's this, what's her name? She owns this brand called Fascinate. And her whole thing is like basically the psychology of in marketing, what's your superpower? Like, what's your vibe? And for some people, it's like the creative, the innovator, the oversharer, essentially. I don't know what term she uses. Then there's the mysterious person. There's like these different archetypes. And it's like a personality quiz essentially, and then breaks down like what's your superpower. And we were talking about this in one of the masterminds I was in. And a lot of them were saying like one of their main archetypes was like mysterious. And so and these are all people who in their business, they're like, yeah, nobody knows I don't post anything about my personal life. Like nobody needs to know anything. Right. And that really works for them because that's authentic to who they are, and keeping that mystery is actually better for them. For somebody like me, it works better if I'm just like, well, word vomiting, to be honest. But for a lot of people that doesn't work, and you don't have to do that. You don't have to do anything, but I think it's helpful to go into some of these fears of like, where am I in my head deciding that like, I'm going to put out one thing that's like, I don't know, I eat animal products. And in my head, I'm building this story that the entire world is going to come after me, right? And hate me. And it's like, whoa, we're not in reality right now, right? And so much of what we're going to attract is what we expect. So if I expect people to come at me about something, it's what I'm going to attract in. And so I had to do a lot of rewiring around that. And I started being really clear with my boundaries in my personal life, which then bled over into like my business. And I have no problem like blocking people, restricting people. Like if you're in my ecosystem, like this is my house, like get out if you're not going to be respectful, and most people who deal with that kind of energy, it's like, this is just a mirror of what's going on in your closer life. Right. So thinking about like, what are my boundaries with like in my personal life, with my friends, with my family. That's really what we want to look at. And then thinking about, what am I actually contemplating whether or not I should share this? Why am I doing it? What are my real fears around it? Do I need to? Do I think I just should? Where are we shoulding all over ourselves? Because you actually don't have to do anything. Actually don't have to do anything. And what's interesting to me is there are actually a lot of like personal brands out there where you actually don't know that much about that person's life. You might know, I mean, I think about like a lot of fashion influencers, for example, like personal brands. And it's like, if you went to their Instagram, I mean, you don't know what's going on in their life. Really, like surface level stuff. Maybe, oh yeah, they ate, paleo cheese puffs yesterday, but you don't really know what's going on, so there's no right or wrong way to do it. And I have a lot of my entrepreneurial friends, I would say in San Diego, they're very like, you don't know what's going on. with their business. They prefer to stay behind the scenes, you know? So it really just depends what you want to build. And I think the key is going into the underlying fears, the underlying stories that we have, where we already anticipating judgment. Am I putting this out there because it's just a misdirected way of trying to be seen by someone because I'm not feeling seen elsewhere in my life, because I feel like I can't share this with XYZ. So I'm trying to share it elsewhere and get that hit of like, I'm seen here, right? Peeling apart a lot of these stories, these limiting beliefs, the question why can be really illuminating, because like that's where it really comes from. At the end of the day, it doesn't actually matter how much of your life you share and how much you don't, you know? And if I think about like, you know, to build a business, I mean, biz school, it's like nowhere in there is it like share all of your life, you know? People care about, when it comes to business, people care about them, right? What results are you getting them? What's the transformation for them? They're not there for you. No offense to anybody, but like they're not there for you.